G'day guys, John with Oz General Store. If you're new to our channel, we're into old school, new school, anything automotive related. And today we've got a Holden Commodore SV6 2016 Black Edition Series 2. Now, this car's been reviewed quite a lot, and so I want to go from a different perspective. I want to go from a manufacturer's perspective, because as you guys may know, we run a manufacturing business, laser cutting, farm machinery, retail, you name it. So I thought maybe I could put the manufacturer's hat on and sort of talk about, you know, what it would take to create this kind of car in 2022. Let's do it. The story's been done to death. Obviously Holden was no longer, and so this was sort of the last Commodore that they released. There was another one that was German and overseas that just didn't get the legs, which we all know. So this car was released in 2016 for the princely sum of 39 grand. And when you look at current models of different cars that are released now, 39 grand seems like an absolute bargain. You know, you've got the SUVs and the sort of mini crossover SUVs that are very, very popular, and they really have taken precedent in the market segment. Whether you're a Holden man or a Ford man, it actually doesn't matter anymore, because, you know, this is what we're left with. It's a legacy, and you know, a lot of people feel really strongly about that. I know I do. When I first started with my first car being a Holden Tirana, which I've still got to this day, a lot of people said to me, oh geez, you're a Holden man, you know, and gave me shit about Fords or Holdens or whatever. And when I got the XD and then XE and then a bunch of other cars, people stopped sort of saying that, because they realised I just had an addiction. not just, you know, I wasn't just a one-eyed Holden fan. When I was growing up, I mean, I watched a bit of Bathurst and stuff like that, but it really wasn't, I was still too young to really take notice of the Holden versus Ford thing. So I think a lot of guys that are sort of similar to age to me, in their 20s and 30s, I really feel like they're not so much in one camp. I think that they're just thankful and appreciative that we had Australian manufactured cars here to begin with. All of the Holdens and Fords, all the old school stuff, it's very, very popular. People are restoring them all the time. You know, pretty much every single model, there's enthusiasts, there's Facebook groups, there's people getting together and doing up those kind of cars. You know, so the culture over here is extremely strong. For our viewers in the US, you know, our Australian culture is definitely part of Australian culture. Now, enough of that rant. VF Series 2, Black Edition. The car's white. It has some black features. So things around here, normally chrome in the normal SV6. This bit, like over here, it's chrome, and then this piece over here is chrome. Around here is chrome, but it's black. Same deal with that side there. And then you got the black spoiler. I mean, does a Black Edition mean sort of like a murdered out car? If so, I mean, I probably would have gone black instead of chrome, because that is not black. What else could you have done to like really murder it out? Yeah, make the badge black to signify Black Edition. Maybe black rims, darker tint. I mean, that's just my 2 cents basically as to really making it fully black. But hey, I mean, it looks good. There's a bit of a difference there, you know, that you've got that badge that you can tell that's a Black Edition. So there's a few little bits and pieces. You know, the car's white obviously, but it sort of allows the black parts to stand out. I mean, I think it was $1,000 option when you ordered it brand new. So, you know, if you wanted to sort of stand out from the SV6 crowd, here you are, hey? As I walk around the car, I'm looking at the fit and finish of the car, and I can tell that, you know, the staff, the employees on the assembly line, they really put their heart and soul into this last car. I'm not saying that they didn't for all the other cars, but I'm saying that they knew that the writing was on the wall. It would have sent shockwaves throughout the company. you know, a company that has been going for so long and people are just sort of like doing their thing, coming to work and putting in a hard day's labor, if you'd call it that, you know, and then they realize, oh shit, my job's in jeopardy, I'm gonna have to retrain. They might have been there for 20 or 30 years or maybe even more. They knew that, you know, this was going to be the end. So when I look around and I look at all the panel gaps and everything, it's you know, really nice. Like the way that it's been assembled, there really hasn't been any shortcuts. With old school cars, it's really a case of start at the rear of the car to get that body line nice and even. You start with the rear door and then you work your way to the front to get everything lined up perfectly. And honestly, like it's almost flawless with the fitment of all the panels. The rear bars are always a little bit difficult because it's plastic, and then it's then, you know, butt up against metal. So it's kind of like, you know, sometimes the paint is mismatched because painting on metal is different to painting on plastic. But I think they've done a great job here with the paintwork as well. It's nice and curved down to the bottom sill. Sort of juts out on a bit of an angle. The only bit that I would probably take issue with is this. It ends a little bit too soon and doesn't meet up with the bottom panel here, and just sort of like goes straight down. It probably should have like sort of came curved a little bit more, or like followed that and curved back out. It's just a very straight line compared to how the guard's situated. But really, other than that, I mean, the car's a beautiful car. It's really a credit to the designers. And this car still, to me, looks quite modern compared to cars on the road. The more that you look at the curves of the car, the more you can sort of see influences. I mean, that part there kind of reminds me of the Camaro, but it's very shallow. And you can see this line that goes all the way through the petrol cap, all the way through the car, and actually does a U shape and comes down in that guard and follows all the way back there. So there's really like sort of like a U shape that goes right around there. And if the fit was terrible, it would look terrible, but it doesn't. It's very seamless as it goes along, and it joins on multiple panels. Joins on the rear quarter, both doors, front guard, and then loops right back around. Just think about the tooling required for your door skins, your rear quarters, your front quarter. Your tooling can't have any wear on it. The tolerance must be tight. If the contour of this line here was out, it just would just mess up the whole thing, and you know, you'd have to use filler to get it just right. But I can see there that there was care taken when pressing this particular panel and all other panels. They really had to get it right, because there is multiple lines that join up down here and here, here and here, and of course this part over here. So from a manufacturer's perspective, pressing parts out of 1mm cold rolled steel, or 1.2, whatever it is, the first couple can be great, but when you're at 10,000 parts and an operator that's careless and they don't put things in, or something's not quite right, hasn't been maintained, that's where you'll get problems. You can imagine if you're creating reproduction parts, you need to create the tooling for door panels, quarter panels, you name it. Tooling is very expensive. You need a very large press with a mouth that can hold the press die. You'll need in excess of 400 ton. You need operators that put the sheet metal in and then stamp it. And then with all being well and good, obviously you've got the cost to maintain the tool. Things will wear over time, and the more that it wears, obviously you'll start to lose all the lines and all the contours. Now that's what happens with reproduction parts for our classic cars. It's just too expensive to get the tools made over here. They can cost, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars just for small bits and pieces. So people will go overseas to places like Taiwan. They'll get the press die made up, and basically what you're looking for is a return on investment. So it still could be $50,000 or $100,000 for a press die, and then you literally need to press XYZ number of parts to recoup all of your costs and finally make money. It's a very expensive exercise. So when people complain about rare spares and they say, oh, the part doesn't fit, rah, 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 well, it's either one of two things. They don't have enough experience fitting the part, and metal always moves, especially if it's coming from overseas. Or number two, the tooling has worn and the cost is as such that they can't fix or replace the tool because they actually haven't made any money on the part, because the market for that classic car part is just too small. So that's it in a nutshell. Let's move on to the interior. It's got that nice sort of like heavy door feel and that clunk. It's very satisfying actually. Looking at the interior, I mean, they've done a phenomenal job there. There's sort of carbon fiber type parts. You've got that soft touch feel, a bit of that sort of piano black type look there. And really, like, it all complements each other. It's very sharp looking. The bin for your little bits and bobs there is probably a little bit too shallow. It's hard to reach in there because you've got this arm rest here, but really it's functional. I'm more from the manufacturing side of metal. Well, that's my sort of specialty, what we sort of deal with every day. I'm not as well versed as plastics or plastic injection molding, so I'm not going to bullshit. I'm not going to pretend like I really know much about it, sort of thing. But what I do know is that in the current market with cars, people love that soft touch feel. The cheap plastics in like Holden cruisers, mate, it's just junk. Like, I don't know why they still continue to do that in this day and age with cheap plastics. Well, I know why. It's for a price point, you know, people want cheap cars, but it just doesn't feel very nice. But when you look inside here, I mean, everything sort of looks as it should. It's a perfect combination of carbon fiber, you know, a bit of gloss, some hard plastics on places where you don't really sort of see or feel it, and then the soft touch feel plastics in places where your arms are going to be a lot and your eye line's going to sort of see this sort of stuff. So jump in the car and let's have a bit of a look inside. The common complaint with these Commodores is that the A-pillar is quite large. It sort of obscures your view a little bit, and it sort of does, but it's got that real sporty feel. Like even the seats for an SV6 sort of like have those little wings that hold your love handles, or my love handles. And I mean, everything's here, everything looks good. Everything's sort of within arm's reach. This particular car's got heads-up display, which is a feature that's still featured in 2022 cars. Here's all this, and this is what I'm talking about. It's within your eye line. You sort of see that. You want to see something good. You don't want something that's just crappy when you put your arm there. So it does have that real cockpit feel. It's got a real sort of, you know, things are all around and things are looking quite nice. It's got that nice sort of suede feel in here. Okay, that can get dirty pretty easily, but you know, when it's brand new, it looks good. You've got that leather on the sides. I mean, it's a real thick boy. It's a real thick seat. So yeah, it's definitely providing the support. Up at the headline is quite interesting there. You can see that it's got a bit of a design feature where it sort of dips down along the middle, and then you've got a bit more headroom on each side. I think that's a pretty cool feature. You've got no Jesus handle here. Most cars don't have it anyway, but you got a Jesus handle over here for when you're doing 6 skids in your SV6. Woo! I'm in the back seat. There's a bit of room here. For all your mates, everybody hanging loose. Put your slab over here. Go to a house party driving the SV6, looking pretty cool. Because don't get it wrong, I mean, like, there's families still driving SV6s, but to become, you know, like a car that young people would like to have. Back in the day, it used to be VT and VXs, and I suppose now it's, you know, the last Holden Commodore. But everything's nice. I mean, this is a car you could have for many, many years and be really, really happy with. Yeah, there's a hand rest here. I was expecting to see some cup holders here for your McDonald's drinks, but hey, you can't have everything, I suppose. And of course, you've got the baby seat little things here. So when you've got a little baby like me, you can strap him in and, you know, accelerate very, very fast. Again, your seats here, they're nice and chunky. I like what I see. This is probably a little bit tight, a little bit small. I think you'd be struggling to fit a Melways in there for guys that know what a Melways is, but I suppose you don't really need that anymore. I've got some buttons here. Let's see what this one does. Would you look at that? Oh, you've actually got to bring it all the way up. Yeah, so this is quite sort of like narrow. It's very deep. Hello, 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 hello. It's pretty big. Let's take my sunnies off because I can't see what's in there. There's nothing in there. I won't muck around with everything, but there's something under here. Oh, you've got an actual like a rim instead of giving you like a space saver. That's pretty deep. There's a few nooks and crannies. There's a few things that you could hide down there. Overall, it's pretty stock standard though. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting inside of a boot. This is nice that that's carpeted. Again, that paint finish, you know, like everything's sort of been painted nicely. No real orange peel. Maybe your Commodore's got some orange peel, but this one doesn't. Pretty groovy feature there. This is the keyless start. So we've just started up the car. There's a safety feature where it actually doesn't allow you to drive the car. You've got to press the start button inside the car to allow all the electronics to work. But come with me over here. I mean, this car is completely stock. In terms of the exhaust, it's a quiet family car. It's not a Hoon's car or anything like that. So it's also got the feature, which is still used today, where you don't drive the car for a little while, it'll actually turn the engine off to conserve fuel. I could barely hear the engine note or the exhaust. It's meant to be a comfortable ride, you know. And so something in 2016 that's got all these features, they're still using those features in 2022. Nothing's really changed except for electrified cars or maybe hybrids. It's got the heads-up display, which we'll look at in just a second. But I mean, to me, this is still a modern day car. The big reveal. Check this out, a bit of plastic. Nah, it's the style that it is these days, you know. They don't really want people mucking around with their own cars because of the ECU and electronics. It's just probably a little bit too difficult in this day and age, I guess. So what can I see? Well, you know, the airbox and the intake. I'm struggling here, guys. I mean, there's a thing where you fill up your windscreen water. The battery terminal, I guess, radiator, things that say don't touch, electrical ECU. I know what that is, big old brake booster. But I mean, this car also came out with V8s, the LS, so you can see there's actually a fair bit of space. I mean, with these kind of cars, you're not able to see down on the ground like the old 202s and the Tiranas and HQs and everything. But this one, you can actually see down to the ground. Starter motor down there. People are far more knowledgeable about these kind of motors than me. You know, I'm an old school kind of guy. Got an old soul. I like old music and everything. But I mean, a modern car, it's just, you just go to the mechanic and they do a few things and then they say, yep, that's fine. It's not really made for you to work on anymore. It's just the way it is. Same with tractors, you know, the right to repair, is that such a thing anymore? They don't want you to repair it. They want to be able to, you know, have another income stream or revenue stream, keep those businesses running. So, hey, look, it is what it is. You know, we've known that for a long, long time. This infill panel here is quite large to cover sort of in there. Everything's sort of covered, you know, nice and neat sort of thing. So, no complaints. I've got nothing really to say other than it's an SV6. One thing I do see is there's only one bonnet strut, and that gives me nightmare fuel because the XD's only got one bonnet strut, and the amount of times the bonnet's like fell on my head, it's too many times to count. So hopefully this thing doesn't fail. Maybe that's the first thing to fail, I'm not sure. fully functional manufacturing facility. This is the motherlands. This is Murray's. We've been doing this since 1903. It's been phenomenal. You know, so Australian manufacturing over here, and you've got Australian manufacturing over there. So, I mean, I can only imagine what it's like for R&D to work out all the intricate CAD details. How many suppliers do you reckon Holden actually had? Probably thousands. And you're jostling with people to get the best price possible to make this for 39 grand. $39,000 for this? Holy shit. We have a hard enough time trying to get things done here, let alone make a car for 39 grand. You're absolutely dreaming. Call it 50, call it 60 grand, you know what I mean? So we had it incredibly good compared to what it is right now. Steel is at an all-time high. Come on over, I'll show you. We make all this stuff. We press it, we laser cut it, we weld it. You know, there's men and women that work here that actually produce things. And the same goes with steel. Our steel stack is at our lowest it's ever been because the steel price is so damn high at the moment. Here's a selection of bits and bobs. Steel stack should be up here. But because it is what it is with supply chain issues, economies of scale, supply and demand, you know, you can see that our steel stack is quite low at the moment. Bundles of steel, bundles of pipe. All of these stillages here contain parts that we use. Can you imagine Holden and how many parts bins they've got? Hundreds of thousands of parts, little grommets, little screws. Men and women trying to work out who the right supplier is, how long it's going to take to get here, can we actually make it here, you know, so there's on and on it goes. Tell me how you're going to make that. For the older guys, you guys might know, but if I said to you, you young guys, can you make me this saddle? Would you know how to do it? Probably not. Same goes with all this sort of stuff here. Can you make that? It's just, you know, solid round. It's been chopped and sheared and then pressed. But I mean, the idea of tooling and learning how to do all that stuff, it's all basically been lost. Hardly anybody knows how to change a press die. You know, so I understand the frustration a lot of these guys have. They wish there was another Australian car made, but it's just too hard now. It really is, you know, to use that brain power for press dies. All the guys that had any knowledge of that are either dead, and the new crop of graduates, they're only interested in working in finance. They're not interested in manufacturing at all. But if you use their brain power for manufacturing and work out how to make stuff, 100% they'll be able to do it. But right now, they're just interested in something different, and that's just the way it is. So you got our tines here, which look like that. You can see the twists in the eyelet. So this gets heated up to 1,000 degrees. It's got all the flake there because it has been heated, twisted and wrapped around. And I mean, we probably have in excess of 500 parts. I just would have an absolute mental breakdown if I was trying to work out parts for the Commodore. I mean, 100,000 parts and different suppliers all around the world. It's a huge mammoth effort for 39 grand. Amazing. So you can see right here, we're just changing over some press dies there. It just looks like a whole bunch of old nothingness in there. But I mean, there's some people that have really spent some time to work out the correct contour of what we want to press. I won't tell you what it is because that's a trade secret, but it's currently being changed over. We'll put the guarding back on, which is over there. All of our presses have guarding. So, but to press a car panel or something like that, you know, you need a huge press. Something that's got a large mouth. These John Heine's are, you know, all 30 tonners and 60 tonners. they're very, very small compared to the huge presses that are 400 ton. So in conclusion, from a manufacturer's perspective and looking at it from a slightly different lens and showing you a little bit more, it's not just a review on the car and it drives nicely, rah rah. It's really looking at something, how the hell would you make this? And the answer is, I couldn't. So hats off to the men and women that actually created this car for that particular price point. So next time that you're up at 12:30 at night looking at car sales, looking for your bargain, have a think about, you know, the good old Holdens and the Fords. Thanks for checking out our video, guys. See you next time.